Well, perhaps if that holds together, Breckenridge and Grayson counties would be next in line for that storm. If you're listening to us on News Radio 840 WHAS, we are tracking severe weather roughly about 40 miles just north of Louisville. These storms are moving off to the east at a rapid pace, storm motion at 70 miles an hour. We have rotation showing up on the radar, and for that reason a tornado warning has been issued for the eastern half of Washington County and almost all of Scott County. If you're on I-65 listening, that would take you up through the Scottsburg, Austin. Crothersville's getting hammered with some heavy rain, as well as Seymour. Strong winds through there now. Severe thunderstorm warnings once you pass the Austin, Indiana area to the north. Farther to the south, including Clark County, down toward the Ohio River, including us here in Louisville, we have just a few scattered showers around the area. That changes later on this evening when our severe chance will be going up. But in the meantime, the action is just north of the river, past Salem, but approaching the Scottsburg area. We have had wind damage reports throughout this event as well as we've moved back to the east, as Brian pointed out earlier, showing a number of areas that have had down trees and power lines, and that's one area that we've been watching. Once again, this is all just now north and west of Louisville, expected to move in here during the early evening hours. Brian?
All right, Kevin, here's the setup again on a wider view on our system here to kind of point out what's happening. We had that wind report, 57 in Crawford County. Now, a lot of you are asking, okay, well, why no warning? Well, the reason that the way it's looking at this point is the south flow that is really kicking in here is slowing down the southern part of this line so much that even the tornado warned storm in Washington County has now dropped 20 miles per hour in forward motion, now down to 50 in forward motion when it comes to speed. But it is still accelerating across portions of Jennings County and Jackson County and perhaps even northern Jefferson County, Indiana. So that's an area that could still see some high winds and maybe some wind damage. But at this point, this part of the line here is likely to continue to slow down as the southern flow really begins to kick in more and more. And that's the reason why this supercell, by all means, is able to take advantage of that and being able to hold on stronger and move to the north and east. And we're likely going to see that pattern repeat itself over and over as we head into this evening. Quite a bit of supercells will eventually form, and then eventually this mess will track to the north and to the east. So Louisville, again, may get lucky. Right now, Kevin, we are at 70 degrees with a gust of 31 miles per hour. So we're feeling the effects of that warm push of air that is moving through, because the wind is out of the south, not from the storms out of the north. It's from the south. So it tells you how that south push is really working on that line there in Indiana at the moment. Yeah,
no doubt about that. And that's why we say for the evening hours for us, our chance is still in question about what we may or may not see across the area. Here's what we are talking about that's imminent concern, and that is the strong winds with potential wind damage that we've had out of the storm in southern Indiana moving through Washington into Scott County. That's a guarantee that there's going to be some strong winds with that. Whether they do damage or not will be dependent on what they hit, but I can tell you wind speeds of 50 to 70 miles per hour not out of the question with that storm, though it appears to be weakening just a little bit because of that southern push of air. So you can imagine this wants to move off to the east in a rapid fashion. So does this back out to the west, but the southerly winds are kicking it up. Elongated, and for that reason you can see the latest severe thunderstorm warnings, not tornado warnings, but severe thunderstorm warnings being issued. The wind field still strong enough to cause some of those straight line winds. So severe thunderstorm warnings to our north, including Seymour, Crothersville, North Vernon. The tornado warning past Salem, but still including eastern Washington County, almost all of Scott County. That's been extended to the south as a severe thunderstorm warning, now including the southern part of Scott County, the southern part of Jefferson County, Indiana, almost all of Clark County, Floyd County, and Harrison County. So we have additional warnings in play. Let me lift that radar map up for you so you can see the warnings in their entirities. And there you see the latest severe thunderstorm warning just to the north of Louisville. Once again, that's the area we'll be watching. That's what Brian had pointed out on the view as we track those storms across southern Indiana. Here's a larger scope for you to see. Again, back out to our west, that area moving to the north and east. Brian, something new?
Well, I just wanted to point out here the reason why we are seeing that warning is we were talking about on on the southern side, the south wind was kicking in. We're looking at the wind fields here. In the green, again, is the wind that is blowing toward the radar site at Fort Knox, located right here. And notice how that green has been expanding. That tells us there's been an outflow that has developed here on the southern flank from that storm that developed across Salem into northern areas of Harrison County. It's got a limited time, so that's why the warning watch, or the warning box itself, is not a very large one. It's fairly narrow. It's only going to go out just a little small area of where that force of wind is blowing outward, and then I guess we'll evaluate at that point if it continues to go further past the point of the yellow box, the severe thunderstorm warning box itself. But it looks to be a gust of wind now that is blowing out of that severe storm that was in Salem. So therefore the wind potential for 60-mile-per-hour winds, if not a little higher, certainly possible for Charleston, Indiana, perhaps Henryville, heading just north of the Knobs itself. And still getting reports of the wind damage back to the west of it, by the way, Kevin, across portions of Orange County. Several reports of trees and power lines down there. So still a lot of wind energy with that system, but it's, again, we can see that green getting pushed into portions of Floyd County, Harrison, and Clark. And it's that green, that's that wind blowing outward that can knock down a few trees and power lines just north of the city.
We're coming up on 4:07. The latest tornado warning goes until 4:15 to our north. The most recent warning is a severe thunderstorm warning just south of that tornado warned storm. Brian mentioned the outflow of those storms, and that creates an environment of its own that these storms will now develop within, and that's something to watch. With it moving so fast, it's going to have little time to do it, but we still anticipate the outflow from that storm to cause some strong winds across parts of northern Floyd County, northern and central parts of Clark County, as that continues to move off to the north and east. That's not going to be the end of the severe weather, however. Still have all of the action that's back to the south and west, and that eventually pushes in our direction. Here's an update on the tornado warned storm to our north. We'll zoom into that so you can see now Washington County being cleared from that, but Scott County remains under that tornado warning, likewise until 4:15. So that includes Jennings and Scottsburg with that storm. Wind gusts here in the city now at 31 miles an hour right out of the south. That is creating the warm temperatures for us at 70 degrees at this point. Also keeping the storms back out to our west from really moving in our direction. So Brian explained that setup, and essentially what we have been watching is the forward motion of these northernmost storms plowing off to the east at a very rapid rate. The ones back to our west, the ones now moving into right along the Ohio River, non-severe, those are getting pushed back to the north because of these strong southerly winds. And with that, it's going to be more of a little bit of time before it pushes past. What that means for us here in Louisville is we really may not see any action until what's well to our south and west can move in here later on in the early evening hours to mid-evening as we press into, say, 7, 8 o'clock. So we're right on the edge of seeing much happen here in Louisville late this afternoon. But I think as we move throughout the early evening and then into the mid-evening hours, the action will pick up across the central Kentucky region down across our Kentucky counties. Brian?
Yeah, Kevin, let me show you a good visual here of what you've been describing as far as the wind fields go. Again, the green is the wind blowing toward the radar site. Red is blowing toward away from the radar site itself. But notice the tremendous amount of wind that we have developing here to the western side is really having an impact here across the Owensboro area where that supercell is about to feed into. And then we got this little outflow that is moving through across portions of Clark County. But the one warning, the reason why we are on is because of this tornado warning that continues for Scott County in itself. And in looking at the radar site, it's right over Scottsburg is where if there's any type of rotation that's still going on, which is not overly impressive. It has been fading away on each one of the scans I've been noticing here, but still potential, as you saw there, still potential there for gusts 50 to 60 miles per hour on the north side there of Scottsburg along I-65. So if you are listening right now on the radio, and again, you're traveling through that area, you may want to just pull off for a while and wait, because we've already had one semi that got blown off the road in Indianapolis because of high winds. We don't want a repeat of that on I-65 in our region either. So we'll make sure everybody's fully aware of where these are. Again, the strongest winds, if you're heading north out of Louisville right now, are going to be right across Clark County and eventually the Memphis exit all the way through Scottsburg. And then at the point of near Seymour, that's when you get into the winds beginning to calm down. But that zone is where the high winds are most likely to take place, Kevin.
All right, and as we pointed out, the reason we are on is because of the tornado warning in our viewing area. That's up in Scott County. Other areas under severe thunderstorm warnings. Let me go back to our tool selection here. I want to just take off the drawing that we had. Outside of the areas that we've seen with some strong winds, we still have some pretty hefty rain and lightning falling and occurring with these storms back across Perry County, lifting up into Du Bois, Orange
Kevin,
County. Yes?
By the way, I got a gust of 69 miles per hour in Seymour just a few months ago.
So that's coming in just north of the tornado warned storm. Let me go back to the tool area here. We'll move the radar up just a bit so you can see where indeed that we're looking. 69-mile-per-hour storms to our north would be just north of the tornado warned storm off across southern Indiana. As we look at the tornado warning itself, it's being compressed down into that one little area, but still powerful with some strong winds. That is not the only area that we've been concerned with. Earlier, in these type of scenarios, the tornadoes are not the only threat. It's oftentimes the wind of the straight line winds that do even more damage, and that's what we've noted. There's Seymour. Brian mentioned not far from Seymour, likely between Seymour and the Crothersville area, having those winds of 60 to 70 mile per hour. That's lifting up into Jennings County, and that's also under a severe thunderstorm warning. So while the tornado warning encompasses only parts of Scott County, including Scottsburg and Austin, some strong winds are occurring in the severe thunderstorm warnings as well that are dotted across the area, most notably now moving into Jennings County and the one just to the south as we look back into parts of Clark County. I'm going to lift the radar up just a bit so you can see the tail end of that storm. Again, folks listening on 840 WHAS, we're tracking storms just north of Louisville. These storms are moving off to the east to our north. So if you're looking at the map, the storms along I-65 in Scottsburg and Seymour, those storms are moving to the east and not a factor within the next hour or so. They are about 25 miles just north of Louisville, and they're moving at a forward speed of roughly 60 to 70 miles an hour in some cases, now starting to slow down just a bit because of that southern push up. Brian?
Yeah, I was going to say they moved into about 65 miles per hour is the last report that we had received out of there. Also, let's see, got another report of by the way, of a semi that got flipped over on I-69 across portions to the west of us there. So just to give you an example of why you got to be careful on the roadways, folks. If you can, just try to stay home and let these storms blow on through before you head out tonight to do that last minute shopping. I'm pretty sure the stores are going to be open late tonight for you to be able to get out and about. But we're still watching that tornado warning for Scottsburg itself. Still seeing the circulation that is there. Again, it's not overly strong, so I'm not surprised we're not hearing about, funnel clouds and a lot of damage being reported as far as what we typically would see with the tornado, because I think this is mainly a very weak circulation still. But given how fast this is moving, you can't rule out a brief spin up that could touch down and go back up in the cloud again with very little notice. In some cases, before the radar even has time to update, something like that can happen. So that's why they're trying to be proactive and make sure everybody's safe in Scottsburg tonight as that moves off to the east. And again, as we mentioned, the wind fields, I'm switching to a different site here out of Indianapolis, but it gives you a good idea of how strong the winds are still in the Jennings County area, where again we have that wind measured there in Seymour of 69 miles per hour. So North Vernon, the strong winds are right now going through your area.
Brian, I'm just getting some information in from Duke Energy. Outages across Orange County, Crawford, Lawrence, looking down into Jackson County as well. We have well over 1,000 to 1,500 homes and businesses without power. So we do have some strong enough winds to cause some power outages with these storms as they pass by. The only tornado warning is still hanging on for another minute and a half or so to our north. That includes Scott County right along I-65. That the heaviest part of that storm is now moving just east of 65. To the south of that, we have this one area, and here comes an extension of that tornado warning now of Jefferson County. So I can update this. Let me just bring the map down. So a new tornado warning coming out along that same zone that takes it across the eastern part of Scott County and across a good chunk of Jefferson County, Indiana, including Madison, Hanover, DuPont. As you look back toward the Scottsburg area, as that storm moves out of the first tornado warning, it's moving into the newest warning that's just now being issued. Severe thunderstorm warning continues just south of that. We'll zoom in a little closer. I want to look at the wind fields on this as we go in close, and as we've been pointing out, wind speeds have been impressive with all of the storms, not just this tornado warned storm. We know we've had a number of damage reports across Jackson County, looking back out in Du Bois and Orange counties. And now as we continue to track this whole line of storms, the one that has our greatest attention is the one that's showing signs of rotation. I got to be fair and honest, they all have our attention because of the strong wind field. Any of these storms, tornadic or not, severe thunderstorm or tornado warning, all have the potential to do some intense damage across the area. So that's the reason we're all here today, is the reason we're keeping you up to date on all of our platforms. This is the velocity. You can see that is the area most concerned, passing I-65 past Scottsburg, moving just south of 256. That's going to move off to the north and east. It's going to take it near the Graham area, and if you're watching there, you should be in your tornado safe place. It's going to happen in minutes. This storm is still moving at a pretty good clip, 60 to 65 miles an hour off to the east and northeast. That's a look at the velocity across the area. This is the reflectivity, and you can see that storm just now entering the latest on the warning area. To our south, as you push south of the Ohio River, there's not a whole lot of action at this point. But again, this is not the only area of concern for severe weather. In fact, the moderate risk of severe storms would be to our south, including the Louisville area. So it's this zone to our south that we're starting to watch some of these storms pop up, where we could indeed be under the threat for some pretty intense weather later on today. That would include areas to our south. Now I want to go to the drawing tool here and point out that we are watching these individual storms develop across LaRue, Hardin County, over into southern Breckenridge County. We've been intently watching this supercell thunderstorm on the tail end of that. All of those are something we're watching behind the scenes as we focus on the current warnings that we have, which are all to our north across southern parts of Indiana. The tornado warning extension includes the eastern half of Scott County and almost all of Jefferson County, Indiana at this point. Brian?
Yeah, the Weather Service acknowledged they were tempted to drop that down to just a severe thunderstorm warning because the signature is not an overly strong signature on the wind fields when it comes to typical tornadic situations. But given the line and the history of wind damage and the fact that it is still there showing up, it's been persistent, but it hasn't exactly strengthened either. It has allowed it to be able to be extended all the way into northern areas of Jefferson County, Indiana. So for those of you in the Madison area, you will likely see some scary looking clouds out there. We've already gotten some videos we're about to show you here shortly that we're working on right now, being sent in from the Scottsburg area. Folks, again, be careful. We know you have to videotape these kind of events, but stay safe. Do not put yourself in danger. In fact, if you're in this area, you need to be in your safe spot, all right? The lowest level of your home. If you don't have a basement, the lowest level is going to be the key part of that, and then get into a place where there's certainly no windows or anything that can hurt you in any shape, form, or fashion. That's going to be the key on that as it blows on through there. And again, we'll keep an eye on that cell as it moves off to the east. And again, likely to, looks like it's already crossed I-65 certainly, Kevin. So I think at this point it's going to be heading toward Graham and Smyrna, and then Madison coming up next.
You know, 4:45, the expiration time on the latest tornado warning. You see the latest warning information at the bottom of the television screen. That includes severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings in this instance, because of the fact that the severe thunderstorm warnings can be just as damaging in a scenario like this as the tornado warning. So we're going to keep all the warnings at the bottom of the screen. You can see the tornado warned storm and the extension of that warning over into Jefferson County, Indiana, comes right down to the river at Madison. The severe thunderstorm warning south of that goes right to Saluda, New Washington, Charlestown, and includes the Henryville and Borden areas. Once again, anywhere along that line, and I'll zoom back out on the radar view for folks listening on the radio, most of this action is all north of Louisville at this point by about 20 miles, though we're starting to see some thunderstorms pop out ahead of this line, and that's something we'll be watching throughout the evening. There's one forming across southern Harrison County. Florida, not far from New Middletown. That's going to be lifting off to the north and east. Additional tornado warnings coming out now just south of the Evansville area, and that too is the area that we'll be watching move across Kentucky late this afternoon into the evening hours. So we're looking at a duration of this event first now happening in with the severe threat, and then evolving down across Kentucky as we head past that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock time frame through the evening. Is severe weather guaranteed everywhere? The answer is no. Will there be severe storms that cause wind damage in a few places? The answer is yes. We've already seen that happen, and we anticipate that to continue to happen even as we head into the early evening hours tonight. That's something we'll be watching. Again, if you're just joining us, you're watching our nonstop severe weather coverage with a tornado warning in our viewing area. That includes eastern Scott County, a good chunk of Jefferson counties in Indiana until 4:45. 25 more minutes left on that warning. Additional warnings back to our west, but that's the storm that has us on the air delivering this information, along with the severe thunderstorm warnings just across the northern part of the metro area. While not Jefferson County, but parts of Harrison, looking over into Floyd as well as Clark counties, seeing some pretty good winds push on into the northern part of the metro. Brian?
All right, thanks, Kevin. We're getting a lot of reports, by the way, of numerous trees down across the Jennings County area. We had that gust at Seymour, close to 70 miles per hour. They've reissued the severe thunderstorm warning to include that wording there for Jennings County, especially for 70 mile per hour winds on the northern part of that line on the north side here of wave country. And we could see a very similar translation all the way down into portions of Jefferson County, Indiana. Very similar setup. So again, many reports of trees coming down. This is one of those situations where the line of storms is moving so fast that the reports from emergency managers and law enforcement are taking a while to get reported. People are coming out of their homes because, again, it is raining pretty good still behind this line, and I know a lot of folks are still a little worried and they want to wait before they feel safe enough to come out of their home. And as they're doing so, they're discovering the problems that we're having. This is a video. This is out of the Scottsburg area. Not too long ago. Let me see if I can get a report here of where we initially saw that video. I'll try to get a name here for you in just a second. Okay, Billy Voiles was the name, but this is the, if you look at it there, Ryan Hoke is helping me out and getting it displayed. But you can see this is when it passed through Scottsburg, Indiana, very close to I-65. That is when the wind was picking up. And again, everybody, I'm sure, was looking for some type of funnel. You're not really going to see that really in circulation like this, where it is pretty much weak circulation for one, and two, it is moving so fast, you're not going to be able to. So for you avid storm watchers out there that love the storm chase, this is not a good scenario for you guys. These storms are moving way too fast to do this. So stay in your safe spots, stay off the roadways in southern Indiana and up the I-71 corridor over the next, I would say, 1 to 2 hours, and let these gusty winds blow on through because, again, we're getting some reports now that are lagging of wind damage and power outages, and we fully expect that to grow in number as we head through the next 30 minutes or so, Kevin.
All right, if you're on social media and you're in southern Indiana, we'd like to hear from you. We want you to be in your safe place if you're under the warning, but as the storms pass, if you have any kind of damage or reports to pass along, they're helpful not only to us but also the National Weather Service. We pass all of that along, and when the day of in the day and age of social media makes it pretty easy to do, you can just hashtag Wave3Weather altogether. So wave the number 3 in weather. We'll see your reports come in instantaneous right here to the Weather Center. We're tracking the storms across southern Indiana, just north of Louisville at this point, with additional scattered storms off to our south. The tornado warning is still in place across eastern Scott County and a good part of Jefferson County in Indiana. That storm has had a history of producing wind damage. Also, so has the severe thunderstorm warning to the north, including a good chunk of Jennings County. It's moving over into Ripley County, so those folks should be on standby for potentially damaging weather as well. Other tornado warnings are in place south of Evansville to our west, but we have an eye on that as well because they're all moving to the east, though a bit slower when you get out that way. So the storms to our north are moving at a rapid pace to the east. They slow down because of that southern push of air coming up from the south, and then we're noticing some of the pretty strong storms and maybe even some hail makers back across the western part of Kentucky. just south of Evansville. That's something we'll watch, and as it gets closer to our viewing area, update you on. Meanwhile, closer to home, as we say, we're watching the storms to our north. I'm just going to zoom in on this general area. It's just north of Louisville. Pretty strong wind gust in places across Floyd County and Clark County, not far from Henryville and Greenville. That's a severe thunderstorm warning, but we look to the north, and that's where you find that tornado warning now past Scottsburg, moving over toward near the Madison area eventually, but it's just now into the far western part of Jefferson County in Indiana. Here in Louisville, we're at 70 degrees. Check the calendar. Yeah, December 23rd. Strong winds out of the south. Strong wind fields coming in both above the surface and at the surface. We have enough instability to cause the severe thunderstorm. The ingredients coming together today to see some damaging wind-making storms across the area, and that's what's unfolding right now across southern Indiana, and that's what we anticipate to continue happening both to our south and west and eventually across Kentucky later in the early evening hours. Brian?
Okay, a couple of things. First off, they have cleared Scott County from the tornado warning. It's all just for Jefferson County, Indiana. The tornado warning will remain in effect until 4:45. So just a heads up there. Forward motion on that storm northeast about 45 miles per hour. Now there's a look at Louisville. Let me show you our Kentucky Wine Sky Tri-Camera right now on top of the Jewish Rudd Heart and Lung Center at the moment, and you can see in the distance where we're getting development now all across portions of Harrison County and right over portions of Jefferson County here in the Louisville Metro, in fact. So in that south strong flow, again, our south winds are gusting at 31 miles per hour. It looks like we're starting to get cells that are going to initiate right on top of this area, right ahead of the main line here, Kevin. And again, nothing severe being noted, but we're going to watch that carefully because we've seen some mergers so far this afternoon. We have seen some rotation develop there, but I know it's a lot of scary images out there. Let us do the worrying for you. We're watching it, but definitely some moving and shaking going on when it comes to the radar right now. We got a lot of moving parts all over Indiana, Kentucky, down to Tennessee, several different areas moving different directions, and that's the reason why we've got to keep an eye on the entire line. It's a large area to watch.
You're right about that. If I can ask the director to punch up our Apple TV, I'm getting a picture in here from Tammy Rice out of Austin, Indiana. She said neighbor's trampoline took out the husband's truck. It's laying on top of it. You can see that we do have some wind damage coming in the form of trees and power lines down, but we also have had a number of areas with just some intense winds, enough to blow the Christmas decor down, certainly enough to lift trampolines. That's moving through the area as we speak. So those are a few things. We'll show you that coming up in just a bit. But in the meantime, we are tracking the severe thunderstorm warnings and the tornado warning off to our north as it pushes on. The forward motion of the northern part outrunning the southern, but nonetheless, this is going to be an ongoing severe weather event as we press on into the late afternoon and evening hours. Once again, that tornado warning until 4:45. We're coming up on 4:30 at this point. We've been on for about the last hour with nonstop severe weather coverage, keeping you and your family updated on a time when we know so many people are either looking to get out or have to get out because of what's happening around the area. We know that may have delayed your plans, so we're here to keep you updated both on TV and across all of our platforms that we serve you on, including social media, including wave3.com, and including the Wave 3 News weather app, which is free and frankly everybody should have. You can see on the radar view these storms, they are moving fast, but there's plenty more where they came from, and additional storms will be developing throughout the evening hours. Brian, that's a general overview and a recap. I know you've kind of zoomed in and are looking at some of the wind data there, so we'll kick it over to you for the Madison area in particular with so many folks there.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of folks worried about the dark clouds. I'm sure you're seeing in your area as well. We are watching the Madison area carefully with the strong winds moving through. Let me go ahead and switch on to a different radar site so you can see the Louisville one here. And there we go. We can see some of the strong winds still moving into the Madison area. And again, not a whole lot of rotation showing up with this still, but keep in mind the Weather Service is issuing these tornado warnings because the environment is so volatile when it comes to the warm air being advected ahead of this line on top of the very strong wind fields aloft. And on top of that, you've got obviously some thunderstorms moving through, in some cases just heavy showers. And it's that environment that can be conducive at times for a weak rotation to produce a brief spin ups. So, but we need to clarify no touchdowns have been confirmed, Kevin.
No touchdowns confirmed, though we do have some wind damage, or at least some things being tossed about because of the wind around the area. That would include parts of southern Indiana. So I want to show you as we take a look out of Austin, Indiana. This is Scott County, where we said the winds could be on the strong side. This was that picture I was trying to show you a while ago where Tammy Rice sent it in from Austin. You know, trampolines, they blow around in 30 to 40 mile per hour winds. We certainly have seen that in the past, and with today's winds, no exception, along with a number of other things being blown about. But that's one area that we were watching those strong winds pass by. In addition to trampolines, we've seen trees and power lines, carports blown down. This storm to our north has meant business. We're still seeing winds here in Louisville at 31 miles per hour. Our temperature at 70. Again, the only warning now that we have in our entire viewing area happens to be the tornado warning until 4:45 for Jefferson County, Indiana. Allow me to zoom back into that. And first of all, let's just put this into motion. For folks that may just be joining us, here's how it's evolved over the last hour to 2 hours, and you can see that the forward motion started out robust, moving off to the east at a fast pace. So did the southern part, but now what we're noticing with those strong winds kicking in, it's pushing this to the north, what's out to our west, and it's going to slow it down just a bit. So that's good and bad thing when you look at what's going to unfold tonight. Could be very good for us here in Louisville, meaning that southern Indiana is going to pick up the brunt of this on the early end, and then to our south, you'll probably see it on the later end. Now, that's neither good nor bad if you're in either of those areas, I understand, and that's just one area that may miss out on the strongest storms would be right along the Ohio River. Something we'll be watching, and we're not ready to say everybody's in the clear. In fact, that's not the case at all. We're all under the tornado watch until 9 o'clock tonight. The only warning that we currently have in place across our viewing area is the tornado warning for much of Jefferson County, Indiana. That includes Madison, and then additional warnings over near the Evansville area. So with that said, once this warning expires, we'll be coming up close to news time. We'll be tracking additional storms and give you an update on the severe threat as we head into the evening hours, because there will still be a decent amount of energy as we go into that 6, 7, 8 o'clock time frame as these storms continue to pass through. And that's what we've been watching to our south. Once again, looking at that radar view, that is the storm that we're watching most intently, because it is the one that is severe. In fact, with the tornado warning, we'll zoom back into that. I'm just going to stop the radar so we can take a closer look. Near Smyrna, moving over toward Madison, it's knocking on your door. Going to be crossing just along the Ohio River, not far from Milton. That's going to be passing by. It's moving at about 55 to 60 miles an hour, so it's slowed down just a bit, but nonetheless the tornado warning continues, and the threat for some very strong winds very real at this point as that storm continues moving off to the east. Looking out to our west, and I'm going to drag the radar down to show you what's still to come, because we still are not out of the woods as we go into the evening hours. You can see the storms with severe thunderstorm warnings across West Kentucky. Those do not end there. They go all the way down excuse me, into parts of western Tennessee. You look back into parts of Arkansas, even Mississippi and Alabama. They're all experiencing some strong storms to severe weather throughout this afternoon, and will continue to do so as this streams up from the south into our area later on in the evening hours. Eventually it will be weakening, but that's going to take some time. Meanwhile, our focus is across southern Indiana for this first round of storms, and then it will shift gradually to the south as we press forward over the next, say, 5 hours or so. Brian?
All right, I want to pass it on. We've got a report in from the emergency director there in Washington County, Indiana, from Desi. She wanted to let us know that numerous trees are reported down there, especially on the west side of Salem on Highway 56, very close to the airport there, and also a few on the east side near the Southway Villa itself. It looks like a 2-mile radius. Pretty much, she said you can draw a circle around Salem and you would have tree damage that has taken place there. So they still have their officers out and about surveying that area as well to see what else they can find now that the worst of the storms have passed the Salem area for the moment. On the radar scope, what you're looking at is we do have a radar at Fort Knox Weather Service radar, but the FAA also has a radar that is located in Mount Washington, Kentucky, and we've got it turned on as well, so we can see sometimes different angles of the city, and you see how the pop-ups developing over the Louisville metro, and it can see even the storm, the tornado warning storm that is now moving in toward the Madison area. But again, so far circulation remains quite weak with that as it is heading toward Madison, but some gusty winds certainly with that, perhaps into the 60 to 65 mile per hour range, if not higher, given its history so far, as it has been moving out of portions of Orange County, then Washington County, Scott County, and now into Jefferson County. So it's been tracking almost due east. In fact, let me take off the radar and put on the storm reports over the past several moments, and you'll be able to see that we've had several storm reports that have come in due to high winds, and this is just from the system that came through in the past couple of hours. These wind reports have been, and again, they're slow to come in. We are just now getting a lot of them taking place, and I got a feeling we're going to fill in this gap here a little more in Washington County, Indiana, and eventually in Scottsburg with some of those high winds that continue to flow in with that particular cell that is moving through. So just our far northeast sections now of wave country, most at risk from these damaging storms that are rolling through a good chunk of the area at the moment, but we've got to stress that we are still talking about some supercells there on the western side. We've got to watch, Sir Kevin.
All right, Brian, thank you. We appreciate all of the emergency managers chiming in. They really help in scenarios like this to really bring real-time images of what's happening, because without the work that they're doing, we're just looking at a radar. So it becomes real when we have that ground truth. So we certainly appreciate all the emergency management partners that we have, the National Weather Service. We're all working in tandem to make sure we keep you and your family safe. And as we look forward to the rest of the evening, we still have that chance for some strong to severe storms to persist across the area. Right now, for another 8 minutes, it's the focus to our north with the tornado warning across Jefferson County, Indiana. In Washington County, where the storm moved through previously, Brian pointed out that there were many trees down across the county. There's no reason to believe that this storm has weakened enough not to cause tree damage there. For that reason, a number of folks are without power. You see the latest tornado warning coming up to the southern part of Du Bois County, up to the far western part of Perry County in Indiana.
And that one's moving, by the way, at 70 miles per hour, Kevin. That's why it's got such a lengthy look to it, to that polygon there.
Right, so that's the storm just south of Evansville. It'll quickly pass through there, should go into parts of Perry County. Next in line would be our area, which would be Crawford County. Should that maintain its speed, that would take less than a half hour or so to be here. That's something we're watching. Frankly, that's been the most impressive storm that we've been watching on radar throughout a good chunk of the afternoon. The rest have been embedded in this line of rain and thunderstorms. While we still have rotation showing up, most of these are just wind makers to our north. We saw that across Jackson County, Jennings, now into Ripley County with severe thunderstorm warnings. To the south of that, near Madison, Indiana, that's Jefferson County, and well to the east of I-65, that storm is a tornado warned storm as well. And then additional storms around the Louisville metro are not severe. So for folks that may be out at, say, the malls listening, if you're still tuned in to 840 WHAS, Terry Miners and the team are standing by and listening too. We do have some rain and maybe even a rumble of thunder nearby the area malls, but that's not severe. I know a lot of folks have things to get done. A lot of folks looking forward to travel for the holidays. Once this passes by, we're going to be in the clear, but it's going to take a little while. A few more hours of this. Later on tonight, we can sound the all clear, only to bring back a rain chance as we head into the day on Christmas Day. Once again, the only warning that we currently have is until 4:45. That's the tornado warning that includes a good part of Jefferson County, Indiana, as we move on forward through the evening hours here. Let me go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if we can go over to the other graphics. Let me take off the lightning here. A few things I want to point out. We've mentioned that storm that is in Owensboro right now that is moving to the northeast at 70 miles per hour. So heads up for portions of Du Bois County and Perry. In line here for potential for that supercell to move into there. Also, this line in general, all right, this is not even part of our area yet, but it is producing hurricane force winds at the moment, and it is racing to the northeast. So for those of you south of Louisville, this is your big heads up that you guys, it's been fairly quiet, but you guys are going to see a lot more action as we head into this evening especially. So we've got, you know, the storm to the northeast of us, Indiana, is trying to stabilize, but right right now, I think along the Ohio River and south, it's going to be a long several hours ahead as these storms are really moving fast and producing very strong winds at the moment, Kevin.
All right, Brian, I want to first of all show that across the area we obvious. I want to show you what's happening now down in Memphis, Tennessee. Of course, we have sister stations all across the South and Midwest and really across the country. This is a live picture for their mobile unit. You can see the darkening skies there. Once again, Memphis, Tennessee, as you look at some of the traffic coming to a standstill there on area interstates with the same storm system that's passing by. You mentioned those hurricane force winds moving into western Tennessee and western Kentucky. This is what they're experiencing, and we've already seen several tractor trailers that have been blown over because of the storms. Closer to home, and pictures that are being sent in to us, CJ Swift on I-65 sending in this photo. It's a different scene, though the sky looks similar. You can see from, if you'll go to the Apple TV, I want to point out I-65, not a standstill, but the skies still look ominous. Same story in Madison, Indiana. And then we mentioned over in Austin, Indiana, the trampoline on the truck there. So we have had wind damage with not only trampolines but trees and power lines down. To the radar we go, and back at it, we are tracking these storms. We said there would be two kind of rounds of storms, even though it's not separated by a gap but by intensity, so to speak. The first moving across southern Indiana this afternoon. That's where we have severe thunderstorm warnings coming out now that include parts of Carroll County, just past Trimble County, so it's right on the line, but Carroll County under the warning, Switzerland County, Indiana. And then the tornado warning for Jefferson County, Indiana, that includes Madison. Those are the warnings now. We started tracking those about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago across our area. Those are passing by. We will see a brief lull. Key word there is brief. So maybe between that 5 and 6 o'clock time frame, we may go without a warning. Excuse me, a warning in our area. But I suspect that as we press into the 6, 7, 8 o'clock time frame, those storms that we've been mentioning to our west and to our south will be moving through, and that's where we'll start to kick it back up again, especially south of Louisville. So Brian gave the heads up. We've been mentioning that throughout the afternoon in our coverage. You're going to have to make sure you're paying attention to the weather throughout that time frame. Once again, right now, the warning that's in place and has our attention along with the entire line, but the only warning we have in our viewing area happens to be the Jefferson County, Indiana storm. I'm going to zoom into it and we'll look at the winds. It's a little bit undefined as to where the rotation is. When we look on the inside of this storm and the velocity that we have, this gives us an idea of the wind measurement both toward and away from the radar. Helps us really pick out where we can see that rotation the best. That's where it would be, right just north of the Madison area. I'm going to broaden that scope out just a bit, but yeah, you can see those brighter colors. There's a little bit of green there. If we had any rotation at all, it would be in that area just north of Madison. I'm going to go ahead and clear that off. That's where we kind of see the radar reflectivity match up with that as well. So that's a good indication. It's almost out of the tornado warning box or polygon, and that will be moving over to the east. Brian?
Well, I got an update on that. They're going to let it go. They're going to let the tornado warning go for Jefferson County, Indiana, and replace it with that severe thunderstorm warning that is in effect. So some good news on that end of things. So at this moment, the tornado warning that is going to expire here in a matter of about 3 minutes officially will expire on time and is not going to be extended any longer. But you see, we've got a very messy situation with heavy rain and thunderstorms. We've had several reports of wind damage. This is from the Washington County Sheriff's Department showing some of the debris on the roadways as well as some high water. Some very heavy rain has been a factor as well. And I also want to pass along from the Orange County emergency director that came through earlier. Not too far away from State Road, or South County Road, excuse me, 640 East. Apparently a carport was lifted off its base and blown out into the field. There has been some minor roof damage. They believe it's probably more of a straight line wind event that took place there into portions of Orange County a little while ago. So again, so that's a basically, we're talking about just some heavy rain at the moment that is moving across southern Indiana, approaching the Louisville area. Our main concern for this evening is going to be how is this all going to play out when it comes to the evening time frame. We've got to watch this supercell that is now over the Owensboro area, tracking north and east. We'll see how it interacts into an area that has had steady rain for a while. So we'll see how long that circulation can survive, even with the warm air advecting into it. So we'll see how that begins to turn out. But even behind it, look at this line. This line is holding on tough the best that it can, and this is likely going to be the most dominant feature as we head into this evening. Is going to be an area of very high winds and potentially a few isolated tornadoes, but I think we're going to end up with a very high wind event that could be developing for our southern counties between now and say 7 or 8 o'clock this evening. So at the moment, a little bit of a breather, but again, stay tuned as we continue to update everything on the other side of things, which would be, of course, areas to the south of I-64.
Shannon Cogan's coming in. We're about ready to start Wave 3 News at 5
Is it that
o'clock.
time already?
Yeah, it is. So
okay.
Instead of going back to a show that you've missed most stuff, we're going to stay on. Brian, why don't we go over kind of the explanation of what we think will happen through the rest of the evening. We'll kind of dissect a larger scale while we can catch a breather here. We have the Christmas Day forecast we'll be able to share with you coming up in our news as well. That includes some rain. But one thing let's just go to the radar view. We're going to spend the next 15 minutes kind of diving in and talking about what we anticipate to happen through the balance of this evening. So in case you're making plans, you'll be able to better make those plans and understand the weather scenario. First of all, we have seen severe weather with damage move across southern Indiana. That's been along what we've called the squall line. There have been no individual supercells with that. For the most part, it's just been an area of strong wind embedded within that line that had rotation. For that reason, we had the tornado warnings that came out. You're looking at the radar view. Again, all warnings outside of the severe thunderstorm warning for far eastern Jefferson and then down into Carroll County in Kentucky. Those are the only severe thunderstorm warnings we have. One thing that we've pointed out throughout the day is that this does not end that severe weather chance. We are still going to be faced with later this evening this next line of storms that's packing a punch. As we pointed out, 75-mile-per-hour winds not out of the question with some of those storms out to our west. That's enough to down trees and power lines, and that's something that we'll be watching. Our news desk is bringing in some of the latest information.
Yeah, that was just that Orange County situation we're talking about, that carport that got lifted up and tossed back down again. So we'll see if there's any more damage out of that area. Kevin, wanted to go through real quick some of the data you were talking about. We do have now a confirmed tornado. This is in the area near Owensboro. Includes the Daviess County area, Spencer County, Indiana. Again, a confirmed tornado over Rockport, moving northeast at 60 miles per hour. This is the area that we are talking about, and it's moving into that rain-cooled air. We switch our radar sources at the moment. Here it is, just west of Tell City. We'll see how this plays out as we head into this evening as it tracks off to the northeast at about 60 miles per hour. At this point, we had reports that it was a funnel cloud initially, not too far away from the Diamond Lake Resort, but now apparently they are observing this tornado over the Rockport, Kentucky area, moving to the north and east, and that is something we'll watch carefully for those of you that are in Perry County especially, and see how this all begins to evolve. Here is one of the short-range models that shows how that line of activity is going to progress to the east as we head into, say, between now and 7:30. You see how we've got these isolated cells in advance of it, and we've got some Boeing segments, pretty much a mess, but most of the concentrated area of severe weather looks to be over Kentucky at this point at 7:30, and then after that, a lot of the activity will then begin to push off to the east. I do want to get back to the 7-day just real quick for those that are curious about how things are going to play out for the holiday. Christmas Eve looks okay. Christmas Day looks wet. Quite a bit of rain coming away for Christmas Day, and then we may see some thunderstorms that'll move in early in the day on Saturday. I know a lot of you are worried about the Battle of the Bluegrass taking place in Lexington on Saturday. At this point, it looks like most of the rain should be early in the day. At least that's the way it's looking now. With a break, that'll allow us to get up to 70 degrees, but the rain will be back again on Sunday and then on Monday as well. So, Kevin, a very active pattern. This is just the beginning of a long weekend, and then we get into more of a flooding problem, more than likely for the weekend. But obviously, at this point, this issue here here with this confirmed tornado is going to capture our attention for the short term.
It's something we're watching. In fact, that is the closest tornado warning and the only tornado warning across Kentucky and Indiana at this time, though additional severe thunderstorm warnings are coming out to our west along that line. And as we've been mentioning throughout the day, if you're just tuning in to us, we've said a number of times that even under the severe thunderstorm warnings, we would have the potential for those 60, 70 mile per hour winds that could do just as much damage as some of the weak tornadoes that we'd see embedded along the squall line that's been pushing through southern Indiana that we're watching back out to our west. So it's not just a tornado threat that we're concerned with, it's a high wind threat. And that's going to happen everybody's not going to have damage, but the threat is there for everybody as we progress throughout the evening hours. Take you to the radar view and you'll see that the tornado warning lies just across parts of southern Indiana, extreme northern Kentucky, the town of Rockport where it was sighted. That's not far from Indiana 161.
We got a tornado warning now for Perry County, by the way. They just issued that.
Yep, it's just now coming out, and that includes the Leopold area, the Tobin area, Tell City. That's being expanded, and the reason is because that tornado is now confirmed. It's on the ground. You've got to be in your tornado safe place. Technically, Perry County just outside of our viewing area, but we're on with nonstop weather coverage until the news comes on at 5 o'clock. Get you caught up with what's happening today and also have an in-depth look of what to expect for the forecast. Our team is assembled here to make sure you're up to date on no matter where you are. If you're in the car, you can live stream us from our app. If you are reading the weather blog, you can see the minute-by-minute update. Ryan Hoke is updating that. Lauren Jones updating our social media along with Christy Dutton and Andy Weingarten. Brian and I are here. So we've got you covered, and we're going to crank out the information as fast as we can, give you the best expert analysis that we can of the storms as well. Brian pointed out that storm that we had over the Rockport area, confirmed with a tornado, is moving off to the east. Brian, what was the forward speed?
Forward speed is 60 miles per hour.
So that's moving at 60. That warning obviously in effect over the next half hour. It goes until 4:15 Central Time, so that's 5:15. That includes Cannleton, Lewisport, and Tell City. That will be rolling toward Leopold as well as we move on over the next half hour to 40 minutes. So once again, a very fast-moving storm would bring it into our viewing area within the half hour should it maintain that rotation. The only warning technically that we have in our viewing area is across far eastern Washington County. This is a severe thunderstorm warning that includes the just past the Madison area, includes Carroll County, Gallatin County, as well as Owen and Switzerland. That's until 5:30 this evening, so that warning just a bit longer. Looking at the storms hugging the Ohio River, they are not severe. The tornado warning is not far away, and we'll be watching that as it tracks off to the north and east. If we put a track on that, what we would notice is that at that forward motion, should it hold together, and you notice how the cone expands out over that time, that would place it not far from Corydon within the next hour, and Pleasure Ridge Park within the next hour and a half. That seems like that's a little long, but that's the storm forward motion on that, Brian.
Okay, yeah, what I've had to do is switch over because the storms now are getting into an area from the radar side out of Louisville where they're getting stuck basically into the heavier rain band. So I've had to switch over to the Weather Service radar out of Paducah, Kentucky. Let me show you now. This is the area that we are watching for that rotation. Here is the Rockport community that had that funnel cloud sighting. Now, the Weather Service in Paducah said it was a confirmed tornado. Louisville has not confirmed that it is still a tornado situation that is ongoing here. But we can certainly see, again, the bright reds and the bright greens. When you see those close together, it tells us the winds are going in opposite directions, and that is a good sign of a strong rotation. This is the northern part, by the way, here of Hancock County in Kentucky. It's right along the Ohio River, and it is tracking. I'll try to loop this the best I can. Let me zoom out so it doesn't look so crazy on you there. But you can see the forward motion on that, again, at about 60 miles per hour. So if it were to keep the arrow going, it will likely track just north of Tell City, if not very close to Tell City, which would put it right into portions of Perry County. As far as where the warning is, that's pretty much where they've drawn the warning as well to account for that. So good warning polygon on that anyway, as far as how it's drawn based on the motion on this. But this one has a much more defined signature in the radar compared to the one that we saw over the Salem area. So Kevin, I'll continue to work and try to get confirmation of what we're dealing with when it comes to whether or not this is still a tornado situation on the ground, or it's back up to a funnel, or just rotation of off.
Well, this was the storm we were tracking about an hour ago out near the Evansville area that still had the tornado warning. With that, it showed great signs of rotation, even some large hail at that point. That storm is still obviously rotating with the tornado on the ground, according to the Paducah Weather Service office, and now moving ever so close to our viewing area. So certainly, you know, it deserves watching, and that's something that we'll be keeping a close eye on. Excuse me. Let me go back to the radar view on a wider scope. I want to point out to the folks that are watching at home why we're all here and why we're watching this. You know, anytime we have a weather outbreak of a severe nature in the winter months, it's rare. When it impacts a lot of people, it's really rare because of the holiday and so many folks needing to get out and about. It's our job to just keep you informed of what's happening. We know you can get that data on your mobile devices, your smartphones. We have the app that's free. We're putting out the information as fast as we can on that. It is staying ahead of the storm. If you go to the app stores, you can find it for free. You'll get the real-time weather alerts. You'll hear the alerts come in, and you can even track the storms on the radar in addition to the live streaming. So you'll be able to, if you're out and about, keep up with that. We oftentimes say it's good during sporting season. It's good in shopping season, too, when you have to be out. We're looking at the tornado warning that butts up to our viewing area. This is Perry County, Indiana. This is Du Bois County, Crawford County, moving across the river to Breckenridge and Meade County. We pointed this storm out a long time ago when we were watching it back out near Evansville, saying that's the one we're going to have to watch. It's on the tail end of this. It's able to feed off of the environment, the unsettled atmosphere that it's moving into. It's weakening just a bit, but it's still maintaining its structure as it pushes into parts of Perry County, moving at about 60 to 65 miles an hour. It's not going to take it long to zoom in, and then should track just off to the north, likely staying just north of Louisville. That's been the theme throughout the afternoon. Eventually, the southerly winds may relax, and we may wind up seeing the action push closer to us. If that doesn't happen by 5, 6 o'clock, we still have the potential to see some of those storms move in later on in the evening hours, especially in central and southern Kentucky. So once again, with nonstop weather coverage because of the threat and because of the impact, we want to make sure we keep you up to date on all of our platforms, what's happening across wave country in case you have to be out and about. At this point, we're in a little bit of a lull as far as warnings across the area. The severe thunderstorm warning in parts of eastern Jefferson County, Indiana, and Carroll County, Kentucky has had wind damage associated with it, some trees and power lines down. That's now moving on to the north and east. Brian?
Cal, I want to mention, do we still have that feed up out of the Memphis area? I don't know if we do, but we're not. Okay. All right, we are getting reports now that the tornado is extremely large and dangerous in Memphis itself that is impacting there. They are in their own coverage right now. They're in their wall-to-wall severe weather coverage in Memphis, and if we're able to get a shot of that when it's able to come up of the storm, we'll let you know. But to let your friends or family know that in the Memphis area, we are watching, even though there is no tornado warning, in fact, for Memphis, but that is the report that we are getting right now from the Weather Service in that area.
That's wild, and there are a number of tornado warnings that stream down across Mississippi and eventually likely to go over into parts of Alabama. We are watching the line of storms to our south, not far from Memphis, because that's the area of storms that should eventually push up into parts of central Kentucky later tonight. How those will develop or kind of fade away is yet to be determined. Right now, they're just now starting to crank up. So really, there's no indication that these will be weakening as they push into parts of at least southern Kentucky and perhaps even central Kentucky later tonight.
Yeah, I really think this is going to be our concern here, is going to be potential for this line to really get cranked up, and there will be some embedded tornadoes that could develop in that line itself. But we'll see how this plays out with that cell in Rockport that is now racing into portions of Perry County. But I must say that the past couple scans on that, Kevin, it really was losing its signature pretty quick. So we'll have to wait and see how this is going to play out in the next few moments as that warning continues.
All right, we are getting ready here for Wave 3 News at 5 o'clock. Shannon Cogan's here. Our whole news team is assembled to help with weather response and coverage, so we'll be getting you that. We've not had a tremendous amount of damage across southern Indiana, but there have been trees and power lines that are down. We have thousands without power from Duke Energy in southern Indiana, some of those being able to be restored, and others will be out for a bit longer. Meanwhile, before we get into the news, let me do one last recap. We're going to come right back and then do some more. On the radar view, you can see there are no tornado warnings in our viewing area. The one that we have just to our west butts up to our viewing area, and that's why across Perry County we've been saying, well, we're going to keep you updated. That's going to include parts of Breckenridge, Meade, eventually Crawford counties as that storm makes its motion to the north and east. The severe thunderstorm warning for Jefferson County and Carroll counties in Kentucky. Another minute on that storm. We have complete team coverage of the active winter weather, which is severe, coming up right now on Wave 3 News. It starts at 5 o'clock.
Expect more right now. You're watching Wave 3 News.
Severe weather pounding parts of wave country right now. This is a live look from our live drive as we continue to track these powerful storms for you. And we thank you for staying with us tonight. I'm Shannon Cogan. Scott Reynolds is off right now. We want to get back to our chief meteorologist, Kevin Harnett, and meteorologist Brian Good, who have been very busy tracking these storms and keeping us up to date. So what is the latest now?
You know, the latest now, Shannon, is the fact that the severe weather threat is not over. While we are in a lull at this point, we still have had some strong storms move across southern Indiana and down into Kentucky. We're going to put a timeline on that in a second, but we do have the threat for.
Yeah, Indiana was first with this line. We were talking about this last night, how there would be like a warning line, if you will, of activity that would pass through on midday, early afternoon. That's exactly what has happened. Has produced a lot of wind damage. We're getting reports in of a lot of power outages. And Orange County looks to be leading the list right now of about 817 customers without power, according to Duke Energy at the moment. And we also have about 536 around Bartholomew. And as you get into portions of Crawford County, about 250 customers without power at the moment. Again, that's from Duke Energy. We are tracking these storms that moved through portions of Indiana earlier today. Now let me zoom back out so you can kind of see a little different view of the radar site. And again, they were tracking through, produced some high winds across portions of anywhere from around Bedford all the way through Paoli down into about Jasper. This corridor has witnessed the highest winds so far as it passed through the northern side here of wave country. The only warning we've got is now for Carroll County that is off to the north and east, and that is the last of the warnings for that when it comes to that batch of storms. But now we've got the southern end of the line that we've got to contend with, and that is where the activity is picking up when it comes to a tornado warning. We had a spotted funnel cloud. It was a radar confirmed tornado that prompted the tornado warning for Perry County, and then we've got a very strong squall line, Kevin, that has been producing hurricane force winds. Very damaging storm still to go to the south.
And that's the area that we'll be watching as we go through the evening hours. Will be that line to the south. Let me give you a quick radar tour. We'll get you updated on the day's news. First of all, the storms near the Louisville area. Folks over near the Green Tree Mall, maybe moving down toward the Oxmoor Mall, St. Matthews, the J Mall. If you're around that area, you may be seeing the rain, maybe even a rumble of thunder. Not severe, not expected to become severe across the Louisville Metro at this point. I'm going to zoom back out. I want to pull the radar down so I can show you the storms that Brian mentioned with hurricane force winds. First of all, the most noticeable would be that tornado warning. We're watching that closely. That storm has had a history of producing some strong winds. That's now going to move closer to our viewing area within the next matter of minutes, 10 to 20 minutes. We'll be keeping a close eye on that. It's this area back out to our west that maintains that line, and that's a linear structure that has the potential to produce 70-mile-per-hour winds fairly easily. That's why even the severe thunderstorm warnings are going to be important to listen to as we go through the evening hours. This too is moving off to the north and east, may impact parts of Breckenridge, Grayson counties, and then into southern Indiana and eventually across central Kentucky. That's the area that we will be watching through the evening. The timeline for Louisville, while we have the showers and thunderstorms around now, the severe potential should pick back up as we head into the early evening hours. I'd say between that 6 and 8 o'clock time frame would be our best chance of seeing some stronger storms here in Louisville. Shannon, We're going to regroup over the next couple of minutes. We have the 7-day forecast. We'll look to next week as well. It's a roller coaster ride that you'll want to see. We'll have another radar update for you coming up, but I know you have some news of the day.
Yes, we will get to that too. And I also want to show you some pictures because so many of you have been sending us pictures of what you have been seeing. And this one comes to us from Camille Leach in Hanover, Indiana. And you can see that dark cloud there in the distance. And this is I-65. You know, this storm is coming at a really bad time because we know so many of you on this Wednesday before Christmas, which is it's going to be on Friday, have so many errands to run. Perhaps you're going to some parties. And so if you're out and about, this is some of what you're dealing with. Look at all those heavy clouds. And then this one, a trampoline landed on top of a truck. So this is in Austin, Indiana. So this just demonstrates how powerful those winds were and will be possibly later on tonight. This is out of Jennings County. And look at that big the dark skies. So we're going to be staying on top of this. And of course, we also want to remind you that you can follow our weather blog because our team of meteorologists constantly updating that. And of course, we want you to download the Wave 3 News weather app because wherever you are, you will know what is happening with the weather. And on days like today, when it can be severe, you want to stay on top of it. And now we do want to get to some news of the day. Police swarm
in that low-level jet. We're going to see some strong winds along this line and Boeing segment that continue to move through. Our radar is being cut off on that last sweep, but the radar echoes continue on down to the south. In fact, let me just stop that radar view so we can see the warnings in place, and you can see until 7:15 we have that warning for Louisville, which includes also parts of Clark, Floyd, and Jefferson counties. Brian?
Yeah, just kind of keeping an eye on the winds that are coming through. To do this, I'm going to have to switch over to a different radar source because, again, the storm is moving over Fort Knox. Let me show you the radar view that's coming out of the Nashville, Tennessee area. This is looking at the wind fields right now from Nashville, Tennessee, looking toward the city of Louisville, and we're already seeing the strong winds that are showing up. Here we go. If you look at it carefully, let me put some speeds on this. Again, this is pretty far away, so keep this in mind. But it's estimating about 47 to maybe 45-mile-per-hour winds on the leading edge of that, and also in New Albany about 20 to maybe 30 on the backside. But we do see some rotation now that is developing right over New Albany and right over downtown Louisville and over the Ohio River. Now, no confirmation of anything tornadic taking place here or funnel cloud, but again, by using the other radar sites, we kind of use different sources to kind of get a good handle on the storm because of so much heavy rain that we have had in the area. We are seeing at least some indication here, Kevin. And given so far away that Nashville is, some of that could very well be aloft because the radar beam's that's a long way to travel. So some of that could still be pretty high up in the atmosphere. I've got the beam as low as I can to try to capture it, but it is something we'll watch because some of those higher winds could be realized and pushed down to the ground. Let us know if you're hearing or seeing anything, and it's safe to do so. You can always tweet us, hashtag Wave 3 Weather, and we'll get that report right away and get it to the Weather Service so they're fully aware of what's going on there, Kevin.
Well, we know that the code red alert's gone out for folks signed up through that from the city. Your phone has been going off, alerting you to the potential for severe weather. If you have the Wave 3 News weather app, the alert's gone off, alerting you of severe weather. That's the region that we're watching on the television screen with the severe thunderstorm warning for Clark, Floyd, Jefferson, parts of Oldham counties. We've had a number of anywhere from quarter-size to golf ball size hail reports coming in across this general area. Now, as we track that storm off to the east, that's going to take the strongest area of the potential for hail, not far from Silver Creek up toward Charlestown and maybe even Goshen, bringing that heavy rain and wind right through the Jeffersonville, New Albany, and Louisville area even as we speak. So our tower cams are showing this. Our storm crews who are out from Salem, Indiana to parts of central Kentucky are showing this. You see the heavy rain falling from our SkyTrack camera with a lot of lightning pushing right into the downtown area. So that's happening now. This is Live Drive, been up in southern Indiana at Salem where power has been out. You can see a number of folks on area roads. We know a lot of people are out tonight, both because of the holiday season, whether you're traveling to and from or maybe just heading to the area malls or whatever you might be doing to get that last minute stuff in. We have this one round of storms passing by. Here is the good news. Once this pushes through, we will be looking for things to calm down just a bit. In fact, we will cease any kind of severe weather action as we pass the next couple of hours. And you can see the end is in sight back out to the west. That'll take several hours to pass it by, but by 10, 11 o'clock tonight, we'll be looking at things that are much calmer. In the meantime, we do have the severe thunderstorm warning for Jefferson County. We're on the air because of the potential for those 60-mile-per-hour winds in the city. Our lights are flashing here at the studios downtown. We've had reports of quarter to golf ball size hail not far from the New Albany area, stretching back out toward Corydon. That's the region that we were watching. You see the strongest part of that storm now just north of Louisville. Let me zoom back into that so you can get an idea of what we've been watching. In fact, we'll go to the camera view. Let me just tilt this up and you can see the thunderstorm warning pops back up. I hear the thunder downtown. We are under the severe thunderstorm warning here in the city and the potential for some strong winds accompanied with some large hail not out of the question. Passing by I-65 now. That's Silver Creek, lifting up toward Charlestown, going to cross back across the river perhaps into Oldham County. That's the main hail threat we're watching, but the strong winds are lined up from the city on to the north. So that's one area of concern with two different types of severe weather, wind and hail. Brian?
Yeah, we also keep an eye on the gusty winds moving through. Let's take a look real quick at our Kentucky One SkyTrack camera again out of from Jewish Hospital, because we're seeing the very intense lighting. Earlier you were able to see the buildings in downtown. Now you cannot due to the wind that is really beginning to pick up. We're waiting for wind reports from Louisville International to come in here shortly, but very intense lightning now with this line. And here's a look now from our tower cam from here on 725 South Floyd Street, and you can see how the heavy rain is moving through. Intense lightning is really impacting a lot of folks here. We're getting reports now of about nickel-sized hail. That seems to be the other report that we picked up. A lot of pea-sized hail, New Albany, but New Albany, many reports of hail. I'm sure we're going to get several reports of hail out of Clark County here momentarily, Kevin, based on what we're seeing here on the radar so far with that cell moving through. Still seeing some broad rotation aloft with that, so I wouldn't surprise me again to see some of these gusty winds, and that's why I think that camera's been bouncing around a little bit.
Well, we certainly have the core of the storm that we've seen here in the city moving through. I know parts of southern Indiana have been under the gun earlier in the day, but for us here in Louisville, the strongest winds passing by with some heavy rain as we speak. Those winds would be approaching the Oxmoor Mall, the Mall St. Matthews within the next 5 minutes, and then pushing on across eastern and northeastern Jefferson County. Let me zoom into this. I want to just point out where we're seeing the strongest winds, and those would be coming across the county right along the river. You can kind of see where that's bowing out. I'm going to draw on the map, and you can see those bright colors right through the downtown area. I'm going to take it through the Highlands, through Old Louisville, and push it off to the east.
And they're going to extend that warning too, by the way, Kevin, even further to the south with the other storm that's moving in. So
okay.
Just FYI.
And in fact, I'll zoom out so you can see that warning extension that Brian's talking about. You see the polygon coming on. That's going to include the southern part of Harrison County, southern half of Meade County, the far eastern part of Breckinridge County, northern Hardin, including the Fort Knox and Radcliffe area, over into the western parts of Bullitt County, so just up to Shepherdsville. But those are the two warnings that we have in the metro. And then down to the south, we still have that cluster of showers and storms moving across Breckinridge and Grayson counties. So really, it's all along that line. And earlier we said the main threat would be along and south of I-64. In general, that's going to remain true, though the area of highest concern for hail would be that one purple region showing up just north of Louisville across parts of Clark County in Indiana. So you see that right there when the radar goes by. That's pretty intense reflectivity coming back as that pushes on through. We're coming up on 7 o'clock. We do have some day's news to get to with Wave 3 News at 7 and Shannon Kogan standing by with that. We also have a number of crews deployed to bring us the latest severe weather from the field. That includes the live drive, and that includes our network of cameras all across the area. For folks that may be in Salem, Paoli, Bedford, English, over to Jasper, you're seeing some rain, but the threat of severe weather is coming to an end for you folks. From Louisville on south, we still have the very real threat for severe weather as we go through the next couple of hours, and that will continue to pass by. Warning for Louisville until 7:15. Same story off to our south. A complete recap continues with our severe weather coverage right now on Wave 3 News at 7 o'clock.
Expect more right now. You're watching Wave 3 News.
And you're keeping a close eye on the weather with us from the Wave 3 News Storm Tracking Team. I'm Kevin Harnett alongside Brian Good, Ryan Hoke, Christy Dutton, as well as Andy Weingard and Lauren Jones. We're all here to keep you safe online and on the air. Shannon Kogan is here too, and we're going to get to her with the day's news coming up. But first, we want to recap the severe thunderstorm warnings that we have in place. You're going to see the first one out for Clark, Floyd, Jefferson, and Oldham until 7:15. That's the storm that's moving through the metro area now. Lights flickering downtown, wind speeds, they've been increasing across the region. That continues to press off to the north and to the east. Let me move the camera around just a bit as we rotate through the warnings. That was one warning. The next one until 7:15 includes Breckenridge, Hardin in Kentucky, Harrison and Meade as well. That storm pushing through. Likewise, smaller chance for hail, though pea-sized hail not out of the question with that, but mainly a wind maker with all of these storms. And then the final warning is just a little farther south, and that includes parts of Breckenridge, Grayson, and Hardin counties. That warning goes until 7:30. You see that cluster of storms moving rapidly to the east as well, pushing through. It's not going to take a lot longer for these storms to pass by the area. In fact, as we go to the home view and we put it into motion, you're going to notice that many areas will be in the clear within the next 2 hours. So by 9 o'clock, most areas along and west of 65 and almost all of southern Indiana in the clear, and then it should be moving to the east after that. Those are the latest warnings. We have had some damage across the area. We continue to look at these storms that have the potential to produce the strong winds and small hail. Let's go over to Brian Good with an update on that. Brian?
Okay, new warning, by the way, just came out. We were talking about this. It's kind of up and down this line in general now. We're talking about another portion of Breckenridge County, Grayson, Hardin County until 7:30 for this evening. So all up and down is where we are seeing this. Now, the hail has been the biggest issue so far. So let me turn off the radar and turn on the hail tracks that we've noticed over the past 30 minutes or so as these storms have moved through the area. Really, the past, I would say, good hour. A lot of this has taken place. Notice the hail core that started around portions of Breckenridge County is now pushing right into Floyd County, into Clark County. No reports yet of the hail out of Clark County, but several reports of nickel to dime size to even quarter size hail, anywhere from Harrison County all the way into New Albany. We're also starting to see the hail core go up over portions of Breckenridge County. That too is going to impact potentially the Fort Knox area if it holds together. And then yet another hail core beginning to go up west of Litchfield. And that's the reason why we have 3 sets of warnings here that are trying to work in tandem, produce large hail and some gusty winds. And then speaking of that, some gusty winds now on South 43rd Street. Apparently a transformer fire is taking place there on Brownsboro Road at Kenilworth Road there. Kevin just came in just a few moments ago, and that doesn't surprise me considering how many wind gusts we probably have had over the area. We'll try to get an official measurement from Louisville International here shortly, but we've got the hail and the high winds. This by far is about a good 90 minutes faster than what some of the models have indicated, but this is it. This is the main line that is now impacting wave country for this event tonight.
Yeah, the severe thunderstorm warnings continue. We'll keep it with weather coverage as this moves through the metro area. It's impacting so many people on a day where folks were looking to get out and probably either head out to holiday parties, head off to grandma's, or maybe even do some last-minute shopping. You can see those storms passing by will be with us for at least a bit longer. I'm going to, let me switch over. The National Weather Service radar is taking a hit as well, so we're switching over our radar sources here. This will be a little better view for you as we can take a closer view inside that storm as it pushes past Louisville. Again, strong winds with all of these, upwards of 50 to 60 mile-per-hour winds could be possible, and then that stretches all along this line. So there's not one place in particular at this point. It just kind of rotates through this line, and that's what we've been watching. You'll see from the tower cam just off to my side there that the lightning is intense and the rain is let up just a bit downtown. So it's quick hitting. It's fast moving. It's going to move in and out fast, but it's going to pack a punch in a few locations. We've already seen a number of areas with wind damage to our north. Trees down, power lines down. Our crews were in Salem earlier. Town dark there with a few hundred people without power. That's starting to come back on, though they've had another round pass by. Let's talk about the severe weather potential as we push through the rest of the evening. Here in Louisville, we'll probably be out of the woods within the next hour here. So by the time the news goes off, we're going to be clear. not rain-free, but at least free of the severe weather threat. To our south, that threat's going to continue a while longer through the evening hours. So as you work your way south of the Ohio River and push down into the southern part of our viewing area, places like Hodgenville, Lebanon, down to Campbellsville, your severe weather threat may indeed linger until around 10, 11 o'clock tonight. But for many of us, that threat will come to an end as we push through that 8, 9 o'clock hour, moving this system on out of the region. Let's go back. I'll put the map into motion here so you can see the radar view, and then as promised, we'll get you to the day's news. You can see that line cluster of storms pushing through the downtown Louisville area. Came in quick and hard. We had pea-sized hail with that. We had wind gusts that were decent enough to at least flicker our power here at the studios. And now we continue to watch those storms stretch back to the south. And those too have the potential to produce some pretty strong winds as they pass by. That's the reason the warnings have been issued. The latest warning coming out, you see it down the line. That would include the rest of Oldham County, extreme northern Shelby County, over into Henry County, as well as Trimble County. So that region would be the next in line to see the storm pass by with the strong wind threat. I'm going to just pan this down so you can kind of see what we're watching there. There's Newcastle, there's Carrollton, not in the warning, but Trimble County is. Let me stop the radar view and then we'll be able to better see. Once again, you can see it's passing by Louisville now. The strongest wind moving past the St. Matthews area over near Anchorage, moving through, well, not far from J-Town, probably getting some strong winds out of that, as well as Middletown. That then lifts off to the east, moving at a quick rate. These storms passing by 50, 60 miles per hour. And Brian, you see the latest warning on the map. I suspect that some areas will see some minor wind damage out of this as it passes through. Yeah,
we just got a report now of some power lines and power poles actually that have been knocked down into Jeffersonville in Clark County with that gust of wind that came through. The new warning is an extension of the I-71 corridor heading through portions of Henry County, Oldham County. That is the next in line here to pick up not only the hail but the strong gusty winds. And we're not ignoring you guys to the south. You also are about to face some very strong thunderstorms in Litchfield, E-Town, as well as into Shepherdsville. In fact, let me take you to our Kentucky One SkyTrack camera into Shepherdsville right now. Looking off to the north at the moment, there's I-65. You see there in the distance. Every once in a while, the lightning has been lighting up the sky as the storm has been moving in from the west and northwest. But Shepherdsville, get ready. You're about to get impacted here with some heavy rain and some gusty winds as these storms move through your community there. All right, back to the radar once again. We are still talking about the potential here for some quarter-size hail. That's been the largest so far out of this. We had golf ball size hail with that supercell well to our west earlier on this evening, and that's about the largest we've had so far anywhere close to wave country. In our area, though, it's been mainly gusty winds. Got a actually a report here from Mesonet of a 61 mile-per-hour wind gust in Breckenridge County as that storm has been moving out of the Hardinsburg area right into portions of, let's see, right into Meade County. So this particular area here is where we had that 61 mile-per-hour wind gust. In fact, I can even plot that on our system here, and you can see it right there flashing at the very end. That was our latest wind report that we just got in a few moments ago as the storms blew through that area. But also keep in mind that anywhere up and down this line, potential is going to be around anyway for some gusty winds, small hail, and of course very heavy rain. Kevin, we're getting several reports of some urban and street type flooding that has been taking place with this line so far in West Kentucky. We're going to see that increase as well for the metro and areas that are typically flood prone. You're going to start to see some areas begin to rise. If you have a creek nearby, keep an eye on it. Make sure it's staying in its banks there, because it could very well rise with this heavy rain, Kevin.
Well, there's no doubt about that. With the rain falling, we have a number of rain gauges that we keep an eye on. Some of those from MSD, the Metropolitan Sewer District. I'm going to try to pop those up so we can get an idea of the rainfall rates. They should pop up on here and populate for us so we can see the rates. You can see looking at these since midnight, some areas have had over almost 2 inches of rain. That just gives an idea of how much rain has been falling across the area. area. Back to the radar we go, and we're still seeing that rain threat continue across central and western parts of Jefferson County. That's moving on off to the east. Pretty quick clip. Southern parts and southeastern Jefferson County not really hit yet, but that's going to be moving in your direction within the hour. Same story across Bullitt County, the eastern parts of Hardin County. You see that rain moving in. All of these under severe thunderstorm warnings. We remind you that if you have to head out, and you know, listen, this isn't some huge weather disaster that you can't get out. You might wait until it passes. It's going to make things easier. But if you have to go out now, download the weather app. It's free. It's on your phone. You get the alerts. You can track the radar. We stream on that, so if you're out and about, you can watch us there, and we'll tell you when the alerts come out. So it's a pretty handy tool to have, and it's free. That's passing by Louisville now with some strong winds, some heavy rain. To our south, we're going to wind up seeing the same story. It's going to be this throughout the evening hours, where we have the strong winds and the rain passing by through the rest of the early evening to our south. We mentioned the rain totals across the area, some impressive numbers coming in. Those will only be going up, and as Brian pointed out, that, you know, if you have the creeks, the streams nearby, they'll quickly rise, but they should equally quickly fade back down. Brian?
Yeah, we're talking about some of the hail that's been falling to the area. We've got some video now. Let me show you on our system here. Let me take you to Goshen right now, where we just got this video in a few moments ago. Here's Goshen in the middle of your map, and here's the video sent in from one of our photojournalists here at Wave 3 News, showing that the hail size overall looks to be about pea size, not very large, but you can see it's mixed in with some gusty winds and some very heavy rain as well. So thank you, James Thomas, photojournalist, helping us out there and getting that video to us as well. And again, that hail, very common theme. In fact, it is lighting up Twitter right now, Kevin. A lot of hail reports coming in with this particular cluster of storms. Yeah,
I'm looking at some of those reports coming in too as well. Wind and hail in Charlestown. Piles of hail coming down the gutters. You've probably seen that if you're across southern Indiana. That was that one storm we were tracking. We're lucky the hail wasn't larger than it was. I mean, fairly small hail we can contend with. That doesn't do a lot of damage. And however, we continue to see that there is still the potential to see some larger hail push through. So we look at what's happening across the area. It's mainly a wind maker and a heavy rain maker with small hail at this point. It's all aligned up and down that kind of arced line that pushes from Newcastle back through Oldham County, Jefferson County, and then back across the river. Southern Indiana almost in the clear completely. So another half hour and southern Indiana will not have to worry about the threat of severe weather. And then it all moves to the south and off to the east. Louisville, we're about in that same time frame. I'd say by 8 o'clock we're going to be in the clear from severe weather, though the rain will linger a little longer. We're down to 59 degrees. We hit 70 today. Pretty odd setup for this time of year. Record-breaking high temperatures today. And again, we're just tracking this storm as it continues to weaken. And if that trend continues over the next 5 minutes, we're going to go to Shannon and get an update on the day's news. And then we have the Christmas outlook for you and a look into next week. In the meantime, we're just kind of analyzing everything along this line so we can keep you up to date in case you have to be out or headed out this evening. You see the lightning on that tower cam behind me. It was moving about just a few minutes ago, indicating that the strongest winds have likely passed by the downtown area. Radar confirms that as well. We'd see those strongest winds just out ahead of this initial line of thunderstorms, right on that leading edge. So those storms are passing through with that burst of heavy wind, and embedded within that line are the stronger winds, where we've seen those trees and power lines down in some places. Brian, we had that first round push through earlier in southern Indiana. Trees, power lines down, trampolines tumbled over there, and now this is the second round that we've been talking about. A number of warnings lined up along that line. Yeah, in fact, a lot of warnings, a lot of heavy rain. In fact, take a look at the radar here. I'm going to take away the rainfall and the warnings that we have. You'll be able to see how many lightning strikes that we have passing through at the moment. The current look to the lightning right now within wave country is about 2,000 lightning strikes just in the past 30 minutes alone that are passing through. One thing I did want to note is that we are watching this one particular cell, Kevin, just north of E-Town, that is beginning to move northbound and may try to collide here right over
Muldrow Hill heading toward Fort Knox, and we'll see if we get any type of enhanced winds with that as that takes place. But we'll watch that cell carefully. Again, surging north quickly out of the E-Town area toward Fort Knox, and that could enhance the winds. But a lot of heavy rain and a lot of that lightning. But as far as damage reports, really it's been minor so far, Kevin. We're talking about maybe a few tree limbs down, some power lines have been knocked down, but the flooding reports now beginning to increase as expected, and I think we're just starting to see the beginnings of that, it looks like.
Just checking the latest warning coming in. We do have a new warning for the southern part of Grayson County. I'm going to zoom the radar out on this so you can see where we're talking about. This would include the southern part of our viewing area. Also goes all the way down to Bowling Green. So just get the idea that that line of storms, though the radar doesn't fill in there, we're on the terminal radar here, so it's a closer, a little more precise radar for us to view for our viewing area. But the radar still showing that line of storms intensifying. The latest warning for Louisville still continues for northeast Jefferson County, but you see the rest of it's faded off. So places like J-Town, looking down toward Okolona, Fern Creek, Mount Washington, Shepherdsville, no warning in place for you at this time. The strongest part of that storm lifting up to the north and east across parts of Oldham County as we speak at this point. When we look around the area as far as power outages are concerned, I'm just getting a check from LG&E.
And by the way, the newsroom is telling us that Metro Safe is reporting a number of trees have been knocked down within the metro itself. So heads up there on that.
All right,
to be careful. Don't travel anywhere for a while.
And looking at the latest reports from LG&E, we have a number of homes and businesses without power. You see it there. This one says 17, but I can tell you it's a much that's 17 outages. Customers affected over almost 300, and I have a feeling that number is going up even as we speak as well. So we are going to have some power outages across the metro. Let's go back to the radar view. This is the latest warning that includes the far northeast part of Jefferson County from Prospect down to Anchorage. That includes Worthington Hills. That includes the Paddock shops. That's going to lift up toward LaGrange, Campbellsburg, parts of Henry, Trimble, and Oldham counties. Northern Shelby, you're technically in the warning, but the strongest should be probably just outside of Shelby County. We'll zoom back out on the radar view to show what's happening to our south, because we do have other warnings that we've been watching. And you can see to our south, as we go back to our home view here, that those storms string down across western Bullitt County and just about out of Indiana, looking over into parts of Breckenridge, Hardin County, down into the Grayson County area. So a number of warnings will continue, especially to our south over the next couple of hours. Our wind gusts now at Louisville at 28 miles per hour. Once again, we're going to wrap up the constant weather coverage here now that the warning is moving out of the metro area where so many people are. We're going to come back with an update for your Christmas week in just a moment. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look to Christmas and the week that follows, and Shannon Kogan will update us on the day's news. Hi, everybody. Kevin Harnett back with you. We're alongside all of our team of meteorologists here, Brian Good and Ryan Hoke, working to keep everything updated on our social platforms. Brian, we've been looking at this storm down across Bullitt County and want to talk about that, and I'll bring you in here because one thing that we've noticed as I lift up the radar view has been a collision of these two storms. You pointed that out earlier, and while we were in the commercial break, the latest warning came out that now includes the southern half of Jefferson County, almost all of Bullitt County. That stretches over into Spencer and Shelby counties as well. This area is the collision course that we were watching, Brian, and I'll just draw on here, but this was the storm that raced out of the Elizabethtown area, and boy, that lifted up in a hurry. Now it's colliding with this storm here. That's an area that we're watching.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one that, I mean, there's nothing tornadic going on that we're able to see whatsoever. But in case you guys are, we were talking about earlier, the main radar site for Louisville is down. There is a backup radar that we can use from the FAA. It's over in Mount Washington. If you've ever driven through the Mount Washington area and seen the dome off to the side and wonder what that is the terminal radar is what we call that, and that's why you see the beam there in Mount Washington. That is saving a grace for us to be able to pick out storms that sometimes can be blocked over at Fort Knox, and it's able to see that storm good over portions of Shepherdsville, or at least just west of Shepherdsville, and now over portions of Hillview, right along I-65 and Brooks, the Jefferson Forest, and about to impact the Gene Snyder and the Preston Highway area coming up next. We do still have our Kentucky One SkyTrack camera pointed in that general direction at the moment from Shepherdsville. And the lightning has really eased off. It wasn't as intense as it was earlier, but every now and then we're getting a few strikes like you see there that do light up the night sky off into the distance. You're looking into the north there, and there's I-65 into the background. So again, the main issue looks to be just mainly heavy rain, but we'll keep an eye on this because anytime we get storms that do have a tendency to merge, there can be some enhanced winds that can take place. Ooh, that was a that was a big lightning strike right at the last second there. All right, we also have a report in on a storm further to the south as well. Kevin is keeping an eye on storms to the south of us. Nicholas Ice Hill, this is out of the Grayson County area that is also severe as well. We've got warnings pretty much up and down this line. Carroll County, you guys are under a severe thunderstorm warning, and it stretches all the way down the line into Grayson. So if you live anywhere along that line off to the east, chances are you'll see a warning of some type here over the next hour.
Oh, we have on the map the severe thunderstorm and tornado watches, as well as the severe thunderstorm warnings. So the outlines, of course, are the warnings. They're getting ready to issue a new thunderstorm watch that will include Taylor and Washington counties. That will go until 3 o'clock in the morning. So to our south, those folks, we mentioned this would be kind of a late evening event for the folks that are not technically under the tornado watch at this point, but a severe thunderstorm watch will be coming your way shortly. And with that, we'll wind up seeing the threat of severe weather linger into the late night hours for some of you off to our south and east. Here in Louisville, that threat's coming to an end as we speak, probably within the hour as that continues its eastward movement. So already passing by the downtown. Once this back edge of this area moves through, the threat of severe weather will come to an end. Technically, the tornado watch showing up in red as the background, that is until 9 o'clock tonight. We're coming up on 7:25 right now, and these storms are moving through Louisville down into parts of Bullitt County. We have some pretty strong winds. We mentioned that the radar in for downplay the flooding threat. Don't drive through the water. Turn around. The waters will recede fast once the storms pass by and the rain lets up just a bit. But in the meantime, we do have some very heavy rain falling downtown, and we have some very strong wind gusts passing by in some localized areas too. Not everybody's going to see the damaging weather, but there will be a few places that experience strong enough winds to down some trees and power lines. Dawn, we'll toss it back over to you for some of the news from the day, and we'll come back with another weather update in just a few minutes.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Well, believe it or not, we are following breaking news right now in the middle of this storm. I've got to thank her, too. She gave me a pot pie recipe that's in my book, A Recipe to End Hunger. And we feed children from food insecure homes. Let's check in with the guys again to take a look again at the weather. Kevin Harnett, Brian Good in the Weather Center. Still a lot going on.
Yeah. You know, before we go to break, we were trying to just kind of catch up on the radar views. Brian's been looking at one area. I've been looking at another here. We'll start at the warnings that are in place. And let me just tell you that the severe thunderstorm warning, and I'm just now getting the code red alert coming in. This is for that flash flood warning that we've been talking about. So if your phone's going off and you're a subscriber to that from the city, you know that we are under a flash flood warning in Jefferson County. That's one part of the puzzle. The other happens to be the strong winds now moving across the southeastern part of Jefferson County from Fisherville, not far from Mount Washington and Fern Creek. That's going to lift over into far northern Spencer County, north of Taylorsville, and bump into the far western part of Shelby County. Brian, that's one of a number of warnings that we have ongoing at this point. Yeah, and the flooding, I think, is going to be our biggest issue as we enter this evening. I'm getting tweets now sent in. David Trimble tweeting me right now saying, hey, some the clean gutters right now are just overflowing like crazy over there at the St. Regis Park area due to that heavy rain that is moving through the area. And again, estimates of more than 2 inches of rain, and potential is there for another inch or so before it leaves the entire metro itself, and then we begin to calm things down. So as we always say, turn around, don't drown. But it's been a while since we've had this much rain in a short amount of time. In some areas, especially around New Albany, it was coming down at about 1.5 inches and about a little more than 30 minutes time. So that is an extreme amount of rain in a short duration. That's the reason why this problem has taken place with the water rising. Earlier, Kevin, we had the report of water coming up to car doors in some cases in downtown. Yeah, I've seen some of the reports where underpasses are flooded over at Preston near Audubon Park. You're going to have to be careful. You're looking at the tower cam view showing the rain rain letting up just a bit. We have our live drive unit out and about as well. It's been up in southern Indiana where Salem, it had the downed trees and power lines. Here's the view as it works its way closer to the city, working back in along the interstate traffic. And you can see as it continues to move off to the south, we are still seeing rain, but at this point, nothing major in the metro. In fact, our severe weather is lessening here downtown, but this still continues off to our east and south. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more weather coverage, more news coverage right here from the team you trust at Wave 3 News. We'll be right back.
All right, quick update on the flooding situation. We do have a new flash flood warning that has been issued. To recap, the one for Louisville is in effect until 10:30, but now we can add Clark and Floyd to that list. Again, flash flood warnings for 15 more minutes until 10:45 into this evening. Reports are from law enforcement in that area is that so far some very heavy rain has fallen. Could see an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain in that area before the warning does officially expire. So again, flash flood warnings for pretty much the Louisville metro at this time. Turn around, don't drown. Don G, we say this a lot. We mean it. It is one of the hidden dangers, especially at night.
We say it a lot, but people got to do it to be safe.
Right.
We'll join you guys again in just a bit. Here's a look at some of the damage near Memphis, Tennessee. Look at that wind, all a part of this same system hitting us. This video from our sister station, WMC, in the Memphis viewing area. Strong wind and rain pelting the area. Look at that. Reports of tornadoes along Tennessee's border with Mississippi. This funnel cloud spotted in Batesville, Mississippi. That is scary to see. And this just outside our studios within the hour. It was heavy downpour. I could hear it sitting at my desk. I had to go out there and look at it. Number one, I went outside, didn't have to have a coat on. Number two, the rain was going sideways. And number three, guys, is this not December? It was lightning out there like you wouldn't believe. This is crazy weather, right?
Yeah.
This is not the norm.
Well, you know what? I've gotten a lot of questions. You know, what if this was all snow? What would it be? Well, technically, you wouldn't have this much moisture if it was snow because cold air holds less, so it would not be as big of a snow event as you would think.
People wanted to know also if they could claim this as kind of a white Christmas because of the hail.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Snow fans will do anything at this
Right.
point.
I want to mention that LaGrange has the highest power outages out. Over 550 customers without power in the LaGrange area. We are watching the radar. We're watching LG&E and Duke Energy as well as they continue to work to restore the power outages. The threat of severe weather ending here in Louisville, but that's not the case across the rest of the region to our south. Brian Good standing by. And Brian, yourself, Ryan, Lauren, all of our whole team has been here to work today because we know this is a high impact day with so many people either having plans or needing to make plans.
Absolutely. That and you guys, I know, missed me, and you just wanted to be around me here today because you're right. It has been a busy day for us when it comes to severe weather and a lot of heavy rain on top of that as well. Here's that band moving through the area. First off, here are the warnings we have. Anywhere you see yellow is a severe thunderstorm warning in effect, and it pretty much is all along that band. Grayson County, Hardin County, all the way through Bullitt, Southern Jefferson, although technically Southern Jefferson's pretty much in the clear, Spencer County into portions of Shelby County, and now into portions of Carroll County and Grant and Owen counties now included in severe thunderstorm warnings. And then once you look into that green area, which includes Louisville and into portions of Clark and Floyd, that is a flash flood warning in effect for the 3-county area until later on tonight. Look at that. Tornado warning just came out for Bowling Green, Kentucky, just a few seconds ago. We'll take a look at that here in just a second. Heavy rain has been a problem, though, all over the area. In fact, this video just sent in out to you long ago in the Springhurst area, sent in from our app. Appreciate that. It says ugly night. Shopping carts flying around over the place, kind of like what Don G was describing, just how nasty it has been out there. We appreciate all the videos and the pictures that really help us out. Look at all the reports, though, that we've had just in the past 6 hours. We've had so many reports of either large hail, in some cases, flooding, and some wind damage. And across Wave Country, that narrows down to 25 reports. 7 hail, high wind reports, about 9 with damaging winds, and 9 reports of high wind gusts. that have taken place in wave country itself. So here is the line of storms. Here is that new tornado warning now for the Bowling Green area about the crossover I-65 on the southern end. Also Nashville, Tennessee. That same storm is the one that produced all the damage in Mississippi. It has raced all the way now and is about to hit Davidson County here into Nashville. So what a mess here up and down the I-65 corridor. Severe thunderstorm watch off to the east. But notice behind it, that's it. There's nothing else. Things will quiet down as we get into the overnight. Here's our Kentucky One Skytrack camera. Obviously, it's dark, so you don't see a whole lot. 59 degrees, current temperature in Louisville. Still got a very strong gusty wind out of the south-southwest at 33 miles per hour. We broke the record today as expected. We hit 70 degrees, and we are still going to see a cool night tonight, despite the fact that we're going to see a south wind around the area. It's going to be kind of cool for a while in the 50s. Still some 60s holding on tough in our southern tier, and that's the reason why that area has been picking up on all the strongest of thunderstorms. So the model is a little bit behind on the action. The storms have been moving faster than the models have indicated, but as we get into 10 or 11 o'clock tonight, most activity will be out of here. Maybe a few last-minute renegade showers with the front itself as it passes through. And then we can quiet down and enjoy Christmas Eve day coming our way. So officially the tornado watch in effect until 9, but that's going to be chipped away shortly. 55 will be the low temperature tomorrow. Christmas Eve, not bad, 64, a dry day. I wish I could say the same for Christmas Day. That does not appear to be the case, though. Rain will be on the increase again, maybe some rumbles of thunder. We'll see a chance for morning rain on Saturday. So overall, I think Lexington should be okay for the Battle of the Bluegrass, but we'll keep an eye on that game, and then we are back into a rainy, stormy pattern Sunday and Monday. I will say this, though, for all you cold weather fans and don't like all this nasty stuff, there are signs of some cold weather just in time for New Year's Eve. I'll talk about that at another time, but first, we're going to take a quick break. All right, let's take a look, if we can, at our Kentucky One Skytrack camera out of the Shepherdsville area. Look at that. It's just coming down rain, lightning. It is a mess out there at the moment along Highway 44, heading in on I-65 as well. Here is the latest look at the radar. I do want to point out real quickly to the south, Bowling Green, Kentucky, including Western Kentucky University, a tornado warning is in effect. This is radar indicated, nothing confirmed at this time. We're watching that storm carefully as it tracks to the east. May impact Hart County and maybe Greene if it holds together later on tonight. We'll see how that plays out. But that heavy rain, you saw that in the camera, right over Shepherdsville. But Louisville at least is getting a break, but still got severe thunderstorm warnings that are in effect for several areas around the area, and including a flash flood warning for Louisville, Clark, and Floyd counties until about 10:30 and 10:45 for tonight. Tornado watch officially in effect on, but that will be chipped away as the worst of it now, at least for the city, is over with when it comes to wind. It's now the heavy rain.
All right, you guys stay with us. They'll be back on if they need to, and we'll bring you all the news at 11 and on web.
Now, with Wave3.com and the Wave 3 News mobile apps, get live breaking news and weather wherever you are. Sponsored by Tark Zero Bus. All electric, all free around downtown. Here's tonight's NBC and Bounce primetime lineup on Wave 3 News. Southern Indiana is wide open noon, nights, and weekends. Visit beatthesqueeze.org.